Hi, this is Andrew from LaptopReviews.com, and I have here with me today the Apple MacBook Air. It's the 2012 edition on the left, and the new ThinkPad X1 Carbon there on the right. So I'm just going to talk about some features and not focus so much on performance or OS today, and just give you an idea for if you're looking for a portable laptop, what might be a better option for you. So first of all, since these are both Ultrabooks, we should compare the thickness and the weight. So here we go. I've shut them both down, and when you kind of scooch up here, you can pretty clearly see that the MacBook Air is the thinner of the two. From front to back, it is thinner. So the ThinkPad is around 0.74 inches, and the MacBook Air is closer to 0.68 inches thick. But let's go ahead and test the weight now. So I have my handy dandy scales here to do that with. So just turn it on, make sure it zeroes out. Okay, so let's put the Air on top and stand up so we can see it. So it's about 2.95 pounds there. Now, if we put the X1 Carbon to the test, 2.974. So the Mac just barely wins there. Really, there's not much in it, so you're not going to notice it just carrying it around day to day. And both are very light. But what I should mention is that the ThinkPad has a 14-inch screen, whereas the MacBook Air is 13.3 inches. And it does have a higher resolution on the ThinkPad X1 Carbon at 1600 by 900. So you get more viewing, and it's an overall bigger screen. So that's kind of like, even though they're tied on weight, you're getting more size with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Now, despite the fact the Mac's 13.3 inches, it is about the same size as far as footprint as the X1 Carbon. So as far as depth goes, they're exactly the same. However, you can see that the X1 Carbon is just a little wider there. Just to talk about design a little, the X1 Carbon is from above, it looks just like any other ThinkPad. It's black. It's somewhat boxy, although I will mention that it's a little more curved than you get on other ThinkPads here. So it's not quite as boxy looking as what you get with other ThinkPads. The Apple MacBook Air has got the aluminum finish, so it's all silver. And just because the Apple branding is such a recognized name and known for style, you're probably going to win more points for style with the MacBook Air, even though the ThinkPad X1 Carbon certainly is more sexy than your average ThinkPad laptop is. So I've got the ThinkPad X1 Carbon on top and the MacBook Air on the bottom. We're just going to compare the port selection on these. On the MacBook Air, you have the power jack, then USB 3.0, and then the headphone port. The power jack is in the same location on the ThinkPad X1. You get a USB 3.0 and then a wireless on-off. So pretty similar there, except of course the headphone port is on the left for the Mac. I rotate around to the right side of this. The X1 has a media card reader here, then a dual headphone microphone port here, mini display port, and then another USB 3.0. Meanwhile, the MacBook Air has a media card reader or SD card slot, a USB 3.0, and then a Thunderbolt port. So for the most part, the port selection is very similar on these. On the back, you do actually get the ability on the ThinkPad X1 to put a SIM card in here. So if you wanted to connect to a mobile carrier for your internet, Verizon, AT&T, you could do that by putting a SIM card in there easily. So let's take a look at the keyboard and touchpad on both of these models. The X1 Carbon and MacBook Air both have a chiclet style 6-row keyboard. one advantage of the X1 Carbon is that you get a pointing stick here in the middle. So if you're used to using that or a business user, that's nice to have. And down here you have dedicated mouse, left and right mouse buttons, and then a scroll, the equivalent to a scroll wheel. Here you hold it down and push on the trackpad point, and you can scroll the screen up and down. You get an oversized glass touchpad on the X1 Carbon, and the same deal on the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air's touchpad is slightly bigger than what you get with the X1 Carbon. That's a little easier to do, see rather, if I kind of put them touchpad to touchpad here. So you can see that just there, that the MacBook Air has a slightly larger touchpad surface area, but still, it's very close, and they are pretty similar size. So one other thing I like about the X1 Carbon is the fact that you get some dedicated media keys at the top here. So you have volume up, volume down, and then you can mute, and then you can also turn off the microphone there. So the ThinkPad keyboard also has a nicer feel to it than the MacBook Air. The key travel is slightly more, and it's just that ThinkPad keyboard feel that's well known, and it's just it's got a great feel overall. Another feature on both of these notebooks is the fact they have a backlit keyboard. So I'm gonna go and turn off the lights in the room over here so I can demonstrate that. So here you go, now you can see it. And that really makes viewing keyboard at night much easier when you have that feature, and it is a standard feature on both of these laptops. Let's take a look at the screens on both of these notebooks. Again, the X1 Carbon has a 14-inch screen, while the MacBook Air has a 13.3-inch screen. The ThinkPad X1 has a 1600 by 900 resolution screen, while the MacBook Air is a 1440 by 900 resolution screen. So you get a slightly more pixels there on the X1 Carbon as far as viewing goes. The displays are both TN panel, they're not IPS displays. I can kind of demonstrate how that works as far as viewing angles. So I push the X1 Carbon back and the MacBook Air back, you'll see that they're pretty similar in terms of viewing angles. I have the Andromeda Galaxy on both of these. The X1 Carbon is a little better, I think, overall in terms of viewing angles and holding up with the colors there being more true. One advantage of the X1, I guess, would be you can push the screen as far back as you want it to go, to 180 degrees. The MacBook Air, on the other hand, that's as far back as I can tilt it there. I'm going to pull the screen back up and tilt it forward so you can get a comparison of how the viewing angles are from a very narrow angle. Again, it's pretty similar. So both have very nice displays, both are very nice and bright, and the coloration of both are very good. The MacBook Air has a glossy display, while the ThinkPad X1 Carbon has a matte display. So in the dark that doesn't really matter, but if I turn on the lights, you can see how the glossy display might be slightly disadvantageous, because it does tend to throw off some reflection. So if you have a strong backlighting above you or lighting it behind you, you see that it's reflecting the lights there on the ceiling, whereas the ThinkPad Carbon X1 is not. So if I it will reflect, but it's just not as bad, and what you're seeing there more than anything is just the light overpowering the screen a bit. It doesn't reflect quite the same. So just to conclude this comparison, in terms of performance, these laptops are going to be pretty much exactly the same. You can get an Intel Core i5 or Core i7 3rd generation processor in each, up to 8 GB of RAM and up to 256 GB SSD. So really what it boils down to for these is which OS you prefer, Mac or Windows, and what you're used to using. If you're a Windows user, then you like having a track point, then the ThinkPad is certainly going to be better for you. And the MacBook Air, if you're a Mac user, obviously you're going to prefer that. They're so close, and in all their specs. I do like the screen better on the X1 Carbon. and the touchpads are both excellent. They're just so close in every feature that it's a tough call between them. So it really does come down to price and just what you're used to. But definitely the ThinkPad X1 I think is one of the better ultrabooks on the market as far as PCs go, and certainly as far as business ultrabooks, it's the best on the market.